Let's now talk about subjectivity and positioning. By the way, both subjectivity and positioning go hand in hand. Uh, uh, they are, in other words, made for each other. Whenever you show some kind of subjectivity, you position yourself uh, in relation to certain object or certain interlocutor in your discussion. The act of positioning regularly invokes a dimension of speaker's subjectivity. In order to explain this point further, if you just read these sentences which are at the bottom of your screen down there, there are two statements, two utterances by two different speakers. For example, the first speaker Noor says, "I like this song," and the second speaker Manha says, "I do not like those." If you just see in these utterances, the subjective dimension is registered openly, overtly, or in other words, clearly through several linguistic elements, including personal pronouns. I, in those statements, the personal pronoun I clearly shows the subjectivity of the statements. And then their affective verbs like and don't like, they show their positioning in these statements. What they do, what they do. Uh, Noor likes and Mana do not like. So it is very much their position in related to certain objects which are being discussed. In first statement, the object is song. In second statement, we are not clear about it. And what do we get from it? That in order to know a uh, certain affective dimension clearly or certain stance clearly, we need to know the object of that stance also. Uh, Therefore, we can conclude, or we might say that in order to see the position of speaking subject, we need to know the object properly, which is being discussed, or which is a point of discussion in some kind of discourse. The affective stance predicate indexes specific aspects of the subject's feeling, positioning the speaker's subjectivity along some scale of affective value, as it happens in these two statements. Subjective predicates which are transitive, for example, like, do not like, love, hate, and so on, they regularly specify the object to which subject is orienting effectively. And as I said earlier, knowing such objects is very important to know the meaning or to know the overall purpose of a stance, or the depth of a stance. The first example illustrates the coexistence of subjective, I, and objective, this song, elements within a unified stance. So, in first statement, I love this song, we find a clear picture, as we have somebody who is saying about himself or herself, I, and his or her affective response is their love, and what he or she loves is the song. All right, but in second statement, if we say we do not have the object, so we are not clear. We have to go deep into the context in order to understand what is being meant by those. So therefore, orientation to a specific object is very important to articulate some kind of subjectivity in a stance. And then specification of particular intentional relation is also important to understand what kind of stance is being made. For example, those intentional relation may be of desiring, loving, hating, liking, or not liking, or maybe many more. So knowing such affective dimension or intentional relation is important to reach a stance also. The following chart in front of you probably would explain this point further. It represents the relation of evaluation and positioning between the stance subject and stance object. In the examples given in front of you, we can see the speaker 1, who is obviously stance subject, says, I like this song. I is stance subject. Her position is clear from the word like. It also evaluates a certain thing. So not only positions like with herself, she also evaluates a certain thing. What she evaluates is the stance object, and that is this song. In the second example, another speaker, Manha, says she is another stance subject, and she also uses I. but she positions herself in a different affective manner. She says, I do not like. So her position is quite of indifference with the object under discussion. Her objects are unknown to us because she has just used the pronoun those. But still we can say whatever those are, she doesn't like it. She's negatively related to those objects by using the word do not like. So do not like phrase not only shows our position, subjective position, but also shows our evaluation of the object. In this way we can say how can we understand a certain stance by dividing it into stance subject and the positions or evaluations being made in relation to stance objects.